I want to start with the book that I'm recommending for our viewers tonight. But, okay, so that's it. So, young people, this is a book I read. It's a storybook, just a storybook, but it's just great, okay? It's entitled, Shall We Tell the President? It's political, and at that time, just before then, I read it just before I started studying political science at the university. So it made a lot of sense to me. But I'd always been interested in these things because I studied government at the A level. So it's kind of political science, maybe 99, because the university starts with 100, isn't it? All right. So it's Jeffrey Archer's book. And of course, you know, if you see any book written by Jeffrey Archer and John Grisham, you want to be a successful young man to grow your brain, read it. John Grisham really writes about legal issues. Fundamentally that's it. He wrote The Firm, which is the famous one, and he writes about legal issues. Jeffrey Archer writes about everything. Politics, society. He's just a fantastic writer. If you read these books, you won't grow up and have difficulty thinking, analyzing, so that you have to insult. You won't insult anybody. Read Jeffrey Archer, you will never insult him. You will think and you will analyze. You can disagree with people, but you will analyze. You will speak it fact. You won't say this and that and that. You won't do that. And serious people will respect you. That's the thing, oh. Serious people will respect you. They will tell you that I don't belong to your political party, but I respect your brain. I get that all the time. I don't know how many people also get that when they are told that I respect your brain. I'm not sure about that. But if you want people to tell you they respect your brain, read Jeffrey Archer. Nobody was born with Jeffrey Archer in his hand. It's an effort to take the book and read it as a young person. That's how countries develop. That's how societies develop. That's how individuals develop, not the other way around. Okay, all right. So, Shall We Tell the President is a book that Jeffrey Archer writes, a novel in which America has got a first female president, and her name is Florentina Kane. Now, if you know Jeffrey Archer's novels, he kind of connects them. So Florentina Kane is coming from his most famous novel entitled Cain and Abel, in which he talks about Second World War and how Second World War brought Abel Rosnowski from the Eastern Europe into the United States, and how he came to meet a nobelist, Cain, and other people, and then Cain and Abel began the battle. It discusses stock exchange, the American stock exchange. It discusses the politics of the time. It discusses Richard Nixon, all in a storybook. Jeffrey Archer is just a fantastic writer. Okay, so this book is a high recommendation from me. Now, what does Jeffrey Archer say in this book? And he writes, so this is an old book that he has sort of written it out again. So he says that at the end of The Prodigal Daughter, which is one of the books, Florentina Kane is elected president, the first woman president of the United States. At 7:30 one evening, the FBI learned of a plot to kill her. The 1572nd such threat of the year. In that year, 1572 is a novel. So at 8:30, 5 people have all the details. By 9:30, 4 of the 5 people who have the details are dead. This is a book you should grab for the weekend. If you're a young person, Charlie, get into it. Jeffrey Archer tells everything about American politics. He continues, FBI agent Mark Andrews alone knows when the killer will strike. He also knows that a senator is involved. He has 6 days to learn where and how. 6 days to prevent the certain death of the President of the United States. A storyteller in the class of Alexander Dumas, that's what the Washington Post said about Jeffrey Archer. He's a storyteller in the class of Alexander Dumas. So that's the note. And then he comes on and says that, when I first wrote Shall We Tell the President, I set the story 6 or 7 years in the future. Now that the future date lies in the past, some of the story's credibility becomes impaired. That's very interesting. This is an old book. And Mr. Archer is saying that when he first wrote Shall We Tell the President, which would be before I went to university, so which would be like late 80s to the 90s, middle 90s. That's when he first wrote the book. And he said he set the book in the future. Now he picks up the book and he sees that some of the things that he thought was in the future, like some of the developments that were going to happen, have now already happened. So they are behind us. Like the IT revolution, he predicted a few of those things, okay? So he's saying that he's sort of retooling the book. And he goes on and says, since that time, I have written The Prodigal Daughter, in which the chief character, Florentina Kane, becomes the first woman president of the United States. It therefore seems logical to me, in recasting Shall We Tell the President, to introduce my first fictional president rather than keep the real-life name of Edward M. Kennedy, who was the focus of the original novel. So what Jeffrey Archer does, as he talks about, he picks up a real story and then he puts it in a novel. So if you read First Among Equals, one of the 3 characters, the 3 protagonists in First Among Equals, is Archer himself. So in First Among Equals, he picks up Simon Keslick Otchere himself, I forget what he calls himself, and another person. And three of them start life, some from rich homes, some from poor homes. All three of them end up in Oxford University. Some have school fees paid. One comes in by scholarship. All three of them went into parliament at the same time. Two of them in the Conservative Party, one in the Labour Party. And the race for one of the three of them to become British Prime Minister. That's the content in the book, First Among Equals. Another Jeffrey Otchere one. But tonight I'm recommending Shall We Tell the President? Okay. So he says, this gives it a natural link to the prodigal daughter and also to Cain and Abel. I have not altered the essential story of Shall We Tell the President, but a number of significant changes, as well as minor ones, have been made in this revised reset edition. So, where's my copy of the book? Can you grab it for me, Michael? Please. There's a bookshop in Labone, City something. I keep forgetting their name. They are in where Metro TV used to be. This is my copy of the book. It's a small book. It's not big. Jeffrey Otchere's Shall We Tell the President? For those of you who are smart readers, I'm not a very smart reader, so this 294 pages, this will take me about a month, but I have colleagues that I went to school with this book. They'll finish it, you know. That some guys are very smart and some girls are very smart too. They'll finish this book quickly. I will take a bit of a time, 1 month. But this is it. It's not big. It's not complicated. Get it. Young person, get it. Read it. Read it. Let's read. You see, a reading society is a growing society, yeah?